Welcome to Cypress Creek Adventures. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode. This week we're going to talk about some garden maintenance and do a little side dressing and straightening up in the garden and see how plants are coming along. We'll also look at a few other plants here on my little homestead that support bees and monarch butterflies. And also we're going to talk about a future project that I got coming up that's very exciting. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about some of this equipment that you use in the garden. I'm a very simple, plain kind of person. So you got your basic rake, dirt rake, and a regular hoe. And then this here is either called a Hula Hoe or a loop hoe. And what it does, the action works back and forth, and you can see that it's very thin. This is the second one I've had in about 40 years, and I leave all my tools out here in the garden simply because if I come out here in the morning for a few minutes and they're not here, I have to go to the shed and get them, and I'll just leave them in the garden the whole year. And I'll put them up in the winter, so they get a little rough shape from sitting out here, but they're always here, and I can take 5 minutes and do a little weeding or whatever. So a couple other things that I use. I use this Osmocote. It's a slow release, and I really like it. It's worked well for me, so we'll use some of this today. In extreme cases, I do use 7-Dust. The only thing I use that on is for my beans and my broccoli. And it just if I miss a day and the bugs have started, and I'm up behind the 8 balls, but I'll come out in the morning when the dew's on and put that on the beans. So our beans are starting to finally come up here a little bit better. I see I got a little damage here, and Swiss chard's ready to cut. I started eating my spinach this week, and it's already come back some. And I've had a hard time getting some peas to grow, and this is basically all I have. So we'll go around here, and our broccoli's set in pretty good, and I'm very happy with it. It's looking really good in here. And here's our squashes, and the other 2 hills haven't come up yet, and neither has some of these flowers. And our mullein is getting bigger and bigger. It's this is the biggest one I've had in the 8 years I've been here. Most of them are smaller, but this one here is very impressive. So I think because it's in the garden here with all this manure I put in. And then on this corner, these are old-fashioned hollyhocks. They're very hard to find the right seed. And so I've had these for 4 or 5 years. I had another one down here further, but groundhog came in here and killed it. So we took care of Mr. Groundhog too. So this one's remained, and it comes back every year. So we'll go through here, and as we talked about on previous video, we're starting to get a few volunteer flowers here. Here's one here. So in another week or so, we'll go through here and transplant all these flowers that are coming up. And then this whole end for the last 8 years has been nothing but flowers, and it just keeps regenerating itself over and over. And of course, you got to keep the weeds out. And I have a lot of morning glories come in here, but they're beneficial for the bees and the hummingbirds as well. All right, so our plants are now ready to get another little shot of fertilizer. I gave them some when I first planted. And so now what we're going to do, we're going to take our regular hoe, and we're going to go down alongside here and make a trench along the side. And then we're going to put a fertilizer in there, and then we're going to do what's called hilling. And we're going to take and pull all the dirt on both sides here up to the plant on both sides. And we'll probably use the big garden rake for that. And then that'll help at the bottom of the plant. It'll help hold this plant because we'll add dirt up to the plant. And then when we get this all done, then we'll take the Hula Hoe and get this all worked up and looking real nice and clean it out. And then we're going to put some water on it. It's been very dry. We haven't had any real rain for about 2 weeks. And I watered this garden about 3 days ago, and it doesn't look it. So now you can see how this is hilled up, and that helps support the plant when it gets a little bit bigger. And I'll run dirt to it again here probably another week when they start to get a little bit bigger. It seemed like a lot of fertilizer. This is a really slow release fertilizer, and it'll work. It works for the whole year. And so this whole container here will do my whole garden. And that's what I like about it, is no burn. And it gets the right amount of nutrients, and we don't put it directly on the plant but alongside, and it percolates in the ground. So then we took our Hula Hoe, and it does a very good job of cutting below the ground and cleans the weeds up really good. So now I'm going to go across here and take the hoe and go towards the tomatoes and clean up in between the rows. And I've already put what fertilizer I want on my spinach this year, and I never put anything on my onions because it makes them hot. Alright, so we're over here to the tomatoes. I do the tomatoes, I've just always done it this way. It's not right or wrong, but I usually take a stick and bore a hole right next to the plant. And then I take my fertilizer and I pour it into the hole. Now I gave this a little bit of fertilizer early, so we're going to just leave that like that. Fill that hole up, and then we'll go back and do each plant like that. So each plant, you can see a little fertilizer there from the earlier, a couple weeks ago when we planted, and it's still releasing. So I do each individual plant, and my idea is because these are spaced further, I don't have to feed weeds in between, but only just the plant. Alright, so over here to the squash, and I'm going to put the fertilizer on them just the same. You can see we've got some weeds here in the middle. We're going to take care of those with our Hula Hoe. And so then I'm going to take the row of broccoli here, and I'm going to side dress it the same as I did the beans. Alright, so we got all our fertilizing done and all our weeding. This section here I always leave so later on I can plant more beans or late peas or anything else. I'll kind of reserve that, and from here over will be all flowers. That'll be our wildflower garden on this end, as we've been talking. So now everything's fertilized and cleaned up. Garlic's going really good. About another month and we'll be ready to harvest that. Several places here on the homestead have milkweed growing, and a lot of this was here when I moved here, and I've never discouraged it, and so we can see that we've already have some visitors in here. About a month ago I did see a couple butterflies and one monarch. So we'll move over to the other patch and maybe we can catch a glimpse at one of the little caterpillars. So over here on the back of my place I have all this milkweed that I let grow, and it was growing here when I came here, and I have this is just some scrap lumber that I keep that every homestead has to have. You're just always constantly in here getting a piece of wood or whatnot. And so we'll move around to some of these plants, and we'll show you some. Right here we have this fellow right here that's see if we can get this to focus. So we know that's a monarch because it's black on yellow, and he's eating on milkweed. So he'll work with this plant, and they don't usually eat the bottom leaves. They like this new growth up in the top here. So we'll move over here. I'm pretty sure I saw one around on this side as well. Let's see if we can get the camera to focus down in here. You can just about see him in there. So he's doing the same thing. He's working this top, and when they get mature, then they go and make a chrysalis, and then they turn into a monarch. And as you know, monarchs have been on a hard decline from pesticides and environmental pressures and stuff. So I've always done my part, and by the end of the summer I'll have a whole bunch of monarchs flying around here. So I really feel good that I've been able to make some kind of contribution to help them come back. So we're going to move over here to the chicken yard, and this is rooster I raised from just a little guy. Maybe he'll crow for us. There we go. Now I raised him and these little black chickens that are right here. I have never figured out exactly what they are, but they're pretty cool. So the point is that all my chickens I raised, I started them in my little coop, which is over here. And so I'm really excited that in a week I'm going to have quail. And so I'm going to start raising quail, and I'm going to use this as my new quail pen. Of course, when I get them, they're going to be very small, and we'll brood them in the house for as long as we can stand it, and then we'll bring them out here, and I'll have heat in the box there. And then quail usually like to be on sand, so this is the tray that I use in this coop here. So I'll clean that up, put it back in there, and then fill it with sand for the quail, and then they'll be able to have the habitat they want. And the idea is that I'm going to raise meat birds and then keep a couple pair, and then let them nest naturally and raise more as the time goes by. And the initial amount, I'm getting about 25 chicks, and they're in incubator now, and they'll be ready here in about another week. So I'm super excited to do that. Well, I hope this has been informative for you. A lot of people that have gardened for a long time is pretty much what you already know, but there's so many people that are just starting gardening that I really feel burdened to help people kind of get along and get started, and maybe answer some questions that aren't really, large questions, but they give you a better result on the end, and some reasons why, and equipment to use, and so I really enjoy gardening myself. And if you don't like gardening, you won't have a very nice garden, whether you're in a box or large scale or smaller like me, and more intensive. So I appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed the little monarch clip, and and we're looking forward to another episode with her quail. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and like and share, and I appreciate it. And God bless.